Tales 85. Today is July 22nd, 7:10 a.m. on a Thursday morning. This Tech Tales edition is probably going to be all about one time slip. It'd be the last time slip that I read from yesterday's Tech Tales. I kind of rushed through that one because it was at the end of the Tech Tales edition, and I knew that this deserved more time, and actually it took me by surprise. Usually I take a look at the time slips I'm going to be doing for any edition of Tech Tales, but that day I just hit the record button and started going. When I came up to this one, it kind of stunned me, and I thought, how am I going to explain this? Because it involved a server that is still in service, peer-to-peer server using Windows 7. Not yet upgraded to Windows 10. How do I explain why this computer is still at that level? In yesterday's Tech Tales, I said there is a reason, and yeah, there's an explanation, or there's a story to tell. I'm not sure how much of a justifying reason it is. I may just wind up having to cop to, hey, I just didn't do it. Deal with it. Mitigating factors, maybe. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the story. You can knock me in the comments if you want to. Sometimes a person doesn't do as good of a job in an area as they think they could have, should have, would have. I'm still not convinced that's the case here, but it's hard to defend this. So here we go. This was a time slip that I read yesterday for July 8th on a Thursday, 1 hour, 17 minutes, 12:42 to 1:59 p.m. Working with Romeo in their office, phone and remote work with Charlie Alpha to recover Romeo's computer after Windows Update failed to complete properly. Now, I'm actually going to give you a better description of all of this time slip, not just the Windows 7 upgrade part. So, Romeo works from the East Coast. We're on the West Coast in Central California anyway. And she couldn't connect remotely to her computer. So I tried connecting remotely, could not do it. She told me that when she finished working the night before, she clicked for her computer to restart to install updates. I asked Charlie Alpha, who happened to be in the office, is not always there. They're all pretty much working remotely most of the time. I asked her to go over and check on Romeo's computer. She turned the monitor on, said, it looks fine. It's there, it's up and running, but I still couldn't connect to it. So I asked her to restart the computer. She did, and then my remote connection worked and Romeo's worked. So, no big deal. Although that's only the second time I've seen that happen, where a restart fails to reestablish the remote connection. And I'm just realizing the second instance of that was this same office after this date. So then next, phone and remote work with Romeo regarding anomalous symptoms, determining them to not be alarming or hindering. So after we both got connected remotely to it, I became aware that she couldn't see me moving the mouse around because I was trying to point to something. And she couldn't see what I was pointing to. And then she moved her mouse around. I couldn't see what she was pointing to. And that struck me as odd. I think that I do that fairly often, where my clients are connected remotely to their computers. So am I. We're looking at things, and we can see each other's mice. So I thought that was odd. Now I'm questioning myself. I'll have to double check that when I'm working with another similar situation. And there was something else that I found, something that I would click on and it wouldn't respond, and she'd click on it and it would. Those were the anomalous symptoms, and it did not interfere with her using the computer. So we just said, let's forget about it, move on. Discuss the sharing needs and options for Lima, recommending to not use the method of adding a new account, a new LogMeIn account and computer for Lima, as she only needs access to Microsoft Word files. So Lima is an attorney. Okay, that was a pause key edit because of an alarm going off in the other room, but Lima is another attorney not employed by this office, not a partner in the law firm. She's going to be working under the supervision of the attorney owner of this business, everybody working remotely, and she'll be handling certain cases that he hands off to her under his continuing supervision. So she only needs access to the Microsoft Word files. And assuming she has Microsoft Word or Office on her computer, she is a practicing attorney. I guess this is just a way for her to get more work to do and to help the attorney here who's kind of sort of not working so hard these days. So Romeo was asking me about my opinion of her plan to shift around the LogMeIn accounts. They currently have 2 LogMeIn accounts, and each of them have 2 users, 2 computers in the office that are set up in host mode, and 2 people that connect to those. She had already contacted a salesman at LogMeIn to discuss dropping one of those accounts and upgrading the other account to a 5-user account. LogMeIn, an individual account, is for up to 2 computers, and then their first level of multi-user account is 5, and then I think the next one above that is 10 users. You can't just add additional users beyond that. So if they added a third 2-user account, that was going to cost more than what it costs to have one 5-user account. So that's what she was planning on doing. But I said, well, the problem with that is we have to buy another computer and set it up somewhere in the office for her to connect remotely to. So she hadn't realized that. It's surprising to me how many times my clients don't seem to realize. They'll ask me, can somebody work on my computer in the office while I'm connected remotely using it? No. You'll be fighting for the mouse and keyboard. And it's surprising that that's somehow not understood. So I said, well, I think a better solution would be to provide a file sharing method, and this was going to tie into fixing some other pain points in their office, because you've heard me talk about their office before. Well, we run out of email space on their email accounts hosted by Network Solutions, and it's IMAP email account, and it's a nuisance every time they get a new device because I have to put in the specific incoming and outgoing server designations and the encryption. And on an iPhone, there's a point where you say save these changes, and then it gives an error message, and the right process is to just click continue, and then you get another error message and click continue, and it just works. You can get your email even though it says it failed. It's just a pain to when they get new devices. So I would like to get that fixed. Since they're all working remotely, we can offload some of this connecting remote to a computer in the office by switching over to a different method of file sharing. They have power outages in this office, and sometimes a computer fails to restart properly. I have the BIOS in those computers all configured to automatically turn on after a power failure, but they still seem to fail. And some of these instances, now I'm realizing where maybe the computer has to be restarted another time before the remote connection capability becomes available. So what else? I think it seems like there's a couple other points, but there's just a number of pain points in this office that could all be fixed with what I'm proposing. And the solution that I'm proposed to her in this conversation was to move the email hosting from Network Solutions to Microsoft 365 by Microsoft 365 for Business licenses. Each of the remote computers, the people's home computers, can have access to the Microsoft 365 account, actually have that software installed on their computers and OneDrive set up on their computers, so they can access folder shortcuts on their desktop that represents the same network drives that they are currently used to using. They can open the files directly from OneDrive. They make their changes, they save them. Everybody else sees those same changes almost instantly. If the power goes down in the office, if the server in the office crashes, they can still work. They can still use the Microsoft Word documents, which is most of what they do. They still do need to be able to connect to the office to use one server-based software. It's server-based in the sense that it is a program installed on the server. It was called Essential Forms. It gets installed on the server, and then for the workstations to use it, all they need is a shortcut where they're actually launching the program file and accessing the data that's stored on the server. And it's a peer-to-peer server. It doesn't have to be an actual server operating system. So they won't be able to do that from their home computers. So they still need to connect to the office for that. Now, there is another obsolete edition of timeslips, and now I'm just second guessing myself even about the Essential Forms, because I think they told me that they have recently switched to using an online version of Essential Forms. So now I'm not even sure if they're doing that. But anyway, I think we're going to greatly reduce the amount that they need to connect to their office computers. We're going to still have the office computers there because sometimes they choose to go into the office and use them. Moving on to the next part of this. So then Laura would also be able to access those because we can share folders through OneDrive to anybody's email address. They don't even have to, well, they don't have to have a Microsoft 365 account, but we will want that because it's a better security. If we share it to anyone who has the link, that's too weak of a security. So I want to share those only to somebody who has a valid Microsoft 365 account, but it doesn't have to be one of our licenses. So then the next phase of this, discussed and implemented plan to upgrade the server from Windows 7 to Windows 10, then implement OneDrive and share clients folder via OneDrive to Lima. So I'm going to, before I address the Windows 7 to Windows 10 upgrade, the last piece of this, send an email to the staff that server will be inaccessible this weekend during the upgrade work. Okay, so I'm just letting them know this weekend you're not going to be able to work. These people work at all various times. I wouldn't call them workaholics, but they just, flex hours, I guess you might call it. So anyway, let's talk about Windows 7 to Windows 10. This is actually not the first time I've recorded this Tech Tales. I've had to record it as I'm remembering, oh no, that's not right. Oh no, that's not right. I'll get to a certain point, I'll kind of stall and hesitate because I'm thinking of something else. So I'm trying to recollect correctly. I've been with this office for supporting them for a long, long time. I think even before Windows 7. And so when we started operating as a server, it was apparent that we only needed a peer-to-peer server, not a real server operating system. We've had various different softwares along the line. They had some times when they would keep using a software long past their support expiration. And it became apparent that when we had, for instance, troubles with a particular software, I'd want to reinstall it on the software. Found that I couldn't because they didn't have the serial number, didn't have the original installation media. So there was a lot of legacy type things that were on their server around the time period when we were upgrading computers from Windows 7 to Windows 10. So there was all that kind of unclear area, unknown area. If we upgrade to Windows 10, or one of these older programs not going to work with it. So that was one reason to resist, a significant reason to resist. And then this Windows 7 computer they had developed some problems. It wasn't working quite right, and it was kind of old. So I replaced the server with a new box. Now, I'm not totally certain how I went about that. In a prior recording attempt of this Tech Tales, I said that I cloned the drive to the new server, but really, did I do that? Did I clone to new hardware? Well, it is possible to do that because Windows will install drivers that it needs, that it finds that aren't there, but it's also possible that I installed Windows 7 on that computer and then just attached the data drive as a second drive in the computer. But then what about those legacy programs? So I'm going to have to just admit, I'm not really sure how I did that back then, but we got a newer box. So this newer box is capable of Windows 10, but there's still that question about the legacy software. And I asked during this phone call about whether they're still using it. It said, well, no, but I occasionally access it. Well, that's a yes. If you ever need to access it, then that's a yes. So in talking further with her, and when we really need to have this Windows 10 in order to accomplish this, we wound up deciding that, okay, we're just going to let go of the legacy software, and if we wind up wanting some of that information, we're just going to have to get it some other way. So we're going to do the upgrade to Windows 10. And that's already been done, but that'll be another time slip. And that's the explanation why we weren't on Windows 10 yet. Now, let me give another mitigation for this. This server doesn't have a monitor attached to it, doesn't have a keyboard mouse attached to it. So I can't call them and ask to look at the screen. I was concerned about what happens if we get a troubled Windows update. I've tried before to get them to crawl down on the floor and move the monitor cable from a workstation to the server. They're right next to each other. And that's difficult. So that was one of the reasons to not want to upgrade. Then also in the office, the receptionist would connect remotely through MSTSE, remote desktop services, to connect to the server. So it's Windows 7 Pro, because you have to have that in order to do this, so that she could eject the backup drive and swap in the new one. Take the drive off, the standby drive off site. Plus, we also do Magnus Box backups on that computer, and I think I also have a Macrium Reflect backup running on it now. So there was that additional complication to it. I guess that's probably enough. Here's the other thing. So nobody uses it to browse the internet. Nobody uses it for accessing email. They have a dynamic IP address in this office, so it's not a static IP exposed to the public. If a sufficiently skilled hacker with a sufficient motivation wanted to hack into this office, would the Windows 7 computer give them an easier way to get in? Probably yes, but that same person is going to be able to get into any of these Windows 10 computers. Let's be honest. With all of the security vulnerabilities that exist, with all the level of hacker skills, all you got to do is listen to HackerOne stories for penetration testing, for listen to Network Chuck, Security Now, Darknet stories. A sufficiently skilled and motivated hacker is going to get into every one of my clients. I absolutely know that if their radar is turned to my clients. So backups that will be able to recover from whatever damage is done. Exfiltration, we're pretty much exposed. This level of business, if you don't have a IT security department, even if you do, they still are getting exfiltrated. The most significant security that clients on my level have is obscurity. The hackers that are sufficiently skilled and capable, they want big money. And my clients are not big money. But I think this is going to change down the road. It's going to become more of a problem. I think the highly skilled hackers are still going to be at the top ring, but less skilled hackers are going to start targeting businesses on the level that I work at. And maybe that's something that we can address through my YouTube channel because of all the smart people that have been involved with my chats. Oh my gosh, I've gone to 20 minutes on this and I haven't even done one new time slip. I think I've probably gone long enough on this. All right. I hope that was useful. Have a great day. Catch you later. Goodbye.